Hi, I'm Celia Gaze and you are listening to the Transform podcast. I'm the founder and managing director of the Wellbeing Farm. It's a fun, unique and magical wedding and events venue based in Lancashire, and I'm also an author of Why Put a Bow Tie on a Llama? How a crazy idea can change your life and transform your business. Follow me for a weekly dose of inspiration as I cover the highs and lows of running a business and my mindset strategies to cope with entrepreneurship and my quest for personal health. Hi, so it's Celia, and this week we're on episode 4, and this is about why finding a niche in business is key to success. So one of the things that I soon figured out when I started trading is you can't kind of be all things to all men. And I think this is where I became very unfocused, very uncoordinated, and ended up really in a complete mess. You see, I'd started off, I opened my business, and because the building work overran in terms of the expense, I had to find a way of getting money in quickly. So the business plan that I'd written and developed and whatever, I had to do something to get money in, because although I had planned to organise and operate a corporate events venue, it would take time to find the customers, time to build and market the facility. And although I'd allowed for this in my budgeting, I had to use the marketing budget that I had on funding the building work. And so as a result, I had to do something different. And I'm just going to read you I'm just going to list the things that I had to do that were different, because I'm looking through the right page of a book here. And I ended up starting, because obviously we opened in March 2013. And the llamas were probably one of the first things to arrive at the farm, because you had to get the llamas in early to be able to train them up to be, so they were, could behave with the public, could walk with the public, etc., etc. Because I, at the time, was going to set up this llama tracking facility. But then, alongside that, there were courses, and we had a butchery courses. Linked to our connection with my family business, which is Whitehead's Butchers, or Stephen's family's business. And then linked, we were doing children's parties. It was great because we had a petting farm and we had a cookery school, and people could come and make pizzas. We had all sorts of different parties on. We obviously had the cookery school. We had a petting farm with all sorts of different animals and different things. We did these large scale events like Open Farm Sunday, Christmas fairs, summer fairs, autumn fairs, all sorts of different things. We did corporate events for companies that could come and hire the farm and do team building activities and meeting space and everything else. We actually did school visits where we taught them all about the field to fork, kind of where food comes from. We did cookery. We used to look at the turbine. We used to take them around that. We operated a café during the week, and that was operated, and we just, anybody could come up, and we did all sorts of, from coffees to meals to fine dining to all sorts of facilities. We did parties. You could hire the venue for a party. So not just children's parties, but corporate parties, birthday parties, all sorts of different parties. We did afternoon teas, vintage afternoon teas, different themed afternoon teas linked with a cafe. And then we also eventually went and did weddings. Now, if you look at all those different things, there were like 14 things. And, it was a totally unfocused, completely kind of, people would look and go, well, what are they? They're doing parties, and they're doing school visits and corporate things and courses, and they've got llamas, and it was just a real mess. And building, and what I've learned is, and what any business book will tell you, that building and maintaining a successful business isn't easy, particularly when there are so many well-established organisations for you to compete against. And in the last episode, I did talk about how to stand out against a crowd, how to start to be different. But I think if I reflect on what I've done and where I am now and my journey and everything I've done and achieved, I think if I had my time again, I would have really gone back right to uh, being really clear about the services I was going to offer and what type of client I wanted to serve, and to map out my avatar or my kind of ideal client. And I think I didn't do enough of that on reflection. I think I dived into, we've got a farm and we could do this with the facilities and the space on the farm, rather than really getting clear on who I was going to serve. And I've got a little extract here, which I'm going to read out of the book, and it's about the chapter on finding, marketing, and selling to customers. Um, and there's a quote at the beginning from Seth Godin, who's the guru of kind of entrepreneurship and marketing. And it says, the media wants overnight success so they can have someone to tear down. Ignore them. Ignore the early adopter critics who never have enough to play with. Ignore your investors who want proven tactics and predictable instant results. Listen instead to your real customers, to your vision, and make something for the long haul, because that's how long it's going to take. And then it says, how you connect and market with your customers is critical, and the most important role the managing director or chief executive of a business can do is to focus on sales and marketing, because bringing in new business is the lifeblood of any business. Start by ensuring that you've clearly identified who your ideal archetypal customer. When you know who they are, you start to focus and start targeting your sales and marketing efforts and design a brand that speaks directly to them. They will make sales so much easier. For example, our ideal customer for the Wellbeing farm fits the following profile now. Aged 26 to 42, they live within a 30-mile radius of the farm, so sort of Manchester, Liverpool, Preston, Lancaster, West Yorkshire, Clitheroe, Bolton, Bury, Stockport. We're very lucky actually to be centrally located in the northwest. They have the interests around sustainability, food and drink, DIY weddings, creativity, animal welfare, yoga, lifestyle. Their characteristics are sort of time poor, and they require a venue which will do everything for them. They're usually professional with, oh, sorry, that was the dog, professional with doctors, dentists, teachers, bank, all sorts. And the customers are very much concerned around their guests having this amazing experience. They want a fun, relaxed, laid-back wedding with good food. Ideally, they want a personalised wedding, but being professionals, they may have very little time to organise everything themselves. So the point is that your business is about making connections with your ideal customers. For us, it's the couples who will be booking our venue. So everything around your marketing and sales and your customer service must focus around building your know, like, and trust factor, your credibility, getting people to know and understand your brand and trust that you'll do a good job in delivering your service. So that was the extract. So you first of all, to make and find your niche in a business, you've got to really be digging down and really crystal clear about who is your audience. Again, podcast 3, I talked about this, doing market research to find who's out there and whether you can spot a gap in the market. Interview some of your target couples, reaching out to them on groups that they may be on, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, all sorts of things. Ask them, find and follow some company that you're passionate about. Look at how they do, look at what their services, look at the shops. Who are the shops that you absolutely love and why? Why do you love them? Start finding out an area that you really could niche down with and do something with in your field of business. And you've really got to dig as deep as you can into finding your ideal customers, to kind of like where they work, what sort of income they have, what sort of lifestyle do they live, where do they go on holiday, what's their day-to-day routine like. Even the more detailed and specific you can drill down to your customer, your ideal customer, the better. So when you've got clear on your customer, let's go back to basics. What is a niche? What is it? Well, a niche, if you looked at a definition, is about providing a product or service that appeals to a small, specialised section of a larger target audience. and you've got to cater to a smaller area, because as business grows and the business world becomes more and more cluttered, sometimes having a niche or a narrower focus means you can avoid excessive competition and get your brand recognition going, because you're not going to compete with everybody. You're only going to compete with a much smaller spectrum of competitors, because you're niching down, you're carving an identity for yourself. And if you think about it, if you define your target audience, you may think, well, I'm only going to get a smaller amount of people, but the opposite is true, because you attract the customers who are so interested in what you offer that they'll probably pay a bit more, because your service is unique and personal to them and is exactly what they want. If you think of like this as applied to sort of like a restaurant, it's almost impossible if you go in a restaurant and that restaurant did everything. You can't have a restaurant who comes in and does a bit of Indian and a bit of Chinese and a bit of Italian and a bit of British and a bit of fast food and a bit of Kentucky Fried Chicken. You just can't have that. So you've got to, or if there was that sort of restaurant, it would have a huge menu and you'd be very wary of it, because there is no way they'd be able to cook totally fresh food. It'd be out of a freezer, into the microwave and on your plate. So this applies to business the same. So you've got to identify your target customer right at the outset, and then tailor your services to that customer and speak the customer's language so they can massively relate to. So there's so many ways that you can compete through finding your niche in a market. So say, for example, if you're a cake maker, well, there's all sorts of different cake makers out there nowadays. You could go into cupcakes, you could go into vegan cakes, you could go into personalised branded biscuits. You could go into these naked cakes that are around. You could go into specifically chocolate cakes, specialising in chocolate confectionery. You could specialise in cheese wedding cakes. You could do, you can kind of see where I'm going. Again, if you're a florist, how do you stand out? Well, hundreds of florists. Well, there's so many types. You could specialise in dried flowers. You could specialise in English grown flowers. You could do bouquets made out of jewellery. You could do paper bouquets. You could say, I'm only doing bouquets made of greenery. I've even seen bouquets made of vegetables. Again, specialised targeting, niching of the services. Let's have a look at bridal shops. Well, you could have vintage dresses. You could specialise in customised Converse trainers. You could specialise in totally wacky, out there shoes. What's that? It's a company. Anyway, never mind. Again, with venues, you don't just have a wedding venue. You have a hotel. You have a country house, you have a castle, you have a barn, of course, different things. If you're a band, you don't just go in one generic type of music. Usually bands specialise. They're either jazz or they're country, or they're doing a ceilidh, or they're doing a string quartet. They don't just do everything. And even if you're like a service like a celebrant, you could specialise in second weddings. You could just do funerals. You could just specialise in wedding. And the point is of all of this, you get the gist of what I'm saying. You've got to find a way of niching down, narrowing the field that you're in, and specialising in that field. So for my way, for my business, we stood out by a niche down, because I didn't want to be just a normal wedding venue. I kind of wanted to be something very, very unique and different. I could have just gone and furnished my venue from just picked a catalogue and furnished it like that. But no, I had to go and source all of the things within the barn. I remember going crazy on eBay, and I even went I bought a sink, a mop sink from a royal palace. It's only a rock sink, but again, I could have just gone and got a mop sink, but I had to go and get it from a royal palace. Again, it stands out. It makes a good story. My kitchen equipment. I remember going to get this kitchen equipment, and I drove. I had to pick it up from Liverpool, and I was picking up something else from Whiston, and I had this key. It's like a keyless car, like a little key fob. And I remember picking up one item from Wiston, and then I drove all the way to Liverpool, but didn't realise that the key fob that started the car had dropped out of my car in Wiston. And I drove all the way to Liverpool to go and get this other piece of kitchen equipment. And I'll be honest, I think eBay's got a lot better and Facebook has, but at the time I've got to be saying, and I'm not wanting to sound snobbish, but I did go in some quite dodgy areas around picking stuff up. And I remember going in this particular area and being trapped in there for hours because I didn't have a key. I couldn't drive back. I rang up the RAC and they were like saying, oh, it's going to cost you hundreds of pounds because you've lost your fob. And it's not been a genuine breakdown. And there's all sorts of things. But the point is, I could have just gone and got a piece of kitchen equipment, but no, I had to go and get this this other thing. I remember travelling one day. I travelled in 5 different counties to pick up things in eBay. Again, you've got to, from when I was doing that, standing out from the competition. Wellbeing was a trend. So I incorporated the Wellbeing concept into the farm, which I've already talked about. We could have just delivered weddings, but no, we have to deliver fun, unique and magical weddings. If you come along to the farm and you've got a designer handbag and designer shoes, I don't think you're going to like the farm. But if you come along with a free-spirited attitude, want a great party, want so much fun, are quite laid back about your wedding, usually you might have a beard or a tattoo or, whatever. You're different. You stand out by your own look and your own images. You're going to absolutely love the farm. And again, for me, finding those llamas was the best thing that I ever did because they made us memorable and unique. And when you're going round and you're having a wedding and you go, and you get to my age and you've had loads and loads of weddings, they've been to loads of weddings. And it kind of goes weddings. Oh, do you remember the wedding with the bow tie wearing llamas? Again, it makes you stand out. It makes you niche. It makes you unique. Makes people remember you. So going back, I'm hoping that to go back to the topic, because I do have a tendency to kind of go off on one. As just probably enthusiasm overload gets to me. Honestly, I love talking, and me doing a podcast is kind of like a fantastic combination of talking and just talking. anyway, going back to it. So why to find your niche, go back to the original question, why finding your niche in business is key to success. It makes you stand out, it makes you different, but critical to this and to be able to find your niche is define your audience. Be really, really clear on your ideal customer, who you want to serve, and then seek to sort of be different, seek to try and stand out by really looking at your niche, looking at the area that you focus on, and looking at how other people are standing out within your area. And I've given you examples from florists, bridal shops, venues, bands, cake makers, restaurants, and try and narrow the competition by being unique and standing out within that niche within your market. So, hopefully that made a bit of sense. And sorry about the waffling on a little bit, but I'll try and get to be more focused next time. So that's all I've got to say on the subject of niches. Thank you. I hope my passion for self-development and entrepreneurship will inspire you to transform your business, mindset, health, and ultimately your life. You can join my mailing list and find out more about my book and other great offers by going to www.celiagaze.com or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So thanks for listening, and I hope you'll tune in next week.